The warning lights on Jiwoo's scanner blinked red, but she ignored them. She had been ignoring warnings for the past 6 years of running salvage operations in the Outer Rim, and she was still alive. That had to count for something. "Boss, those readings don't make sense," Daehyun said from the pilot seat. His fingers moved across the controls, zooming in on the debris field ahead. "That's way too much metal for a normal wreck." Jiwoo leaned over his shoulder, studying the screen. The Velos Nebula stretched before them like a purple and blue curtain. Beautiful and deadly, somewhere in that cosmic soup, their sensors had found something big, something that shouldn't be there. "Take us in slow," she said. "Hana, power up the cutting tools. Whatever this is, we're going to need everything we've got." In the cargo bay below, Hana's voice crackled through the comm. "Already on it." "But Jiwoo, you know what sector we're in, right? This is Draken territory." Everyone knew about the Drakon. They looked like the dragons from old Earth stories, except they were real and they ruled this part of space with claws of crystal and weapons that could turn planets to glass. Humanity had learned to stay out of their way. The Drakon didn't negotiate. They didn't compromise. They conquered or they destroyed. "The Drakon abandoned this sector 300 years ago," Jiwoo said, though her hand moved to the pistol at her hip anyway. "Whatever's out here, they don't care about it anymore." The ship pushed through the nebula's outer edges. The purple gases swirled around them and then suddenly cleared. Daehyun sucked in a breath. "By all the stars," he whispered. Floating before them was a structure so massive it made their little salvage ship look like a toy. It was clearly Drakon in design. All sharp angles and crystalline surfaces, but half of it was torn away. Huge sections drifted nearby, connected by cables that sparked with dying energy. The whole thing looked like a broken cathedral, beautiful and sad at the same time. "That's a war temple," Hana said over the comm. She had joined them on the bridge, her young face pressed against the window. "The Drakon built these during their civil war. They're supposed to be sacred sites." "They're supposed to be completely destroyed," Daehyun added. "The Drakon made sure of that when their war ended." "How is this one still here?" Jiwoo smiled. This was why she loved salvage work. Every job was a mystery, and mysteries meant valuable things that no one else had found yet. "Only one way to find out. Daehyun, find us a landing spot." They docked inside what looked like it had once been a hangar bay. The magnetic clamps seized onto metal that was still surprisingly solid despite floating in space for centuries. Jiwoo suited up and led her small crew into the dead temple. The inside was even more impressive than the outside. The Drakon built everything to their own massive scale. The corridors were wide enough to drive a truck through, and the ceilings vanished into darkness above them. Strange symbols covered the walls, glowing faintly with their own light. "This place is still powered," Hana said, running her scanner over the walls. "Partially, anyway. Something's keeping the emergency systems running." They moved deeper into the temple. Jiwoo had explored dozens of wrecks, but this felt different. There was a weight to the air here, a sense of presence that made her skin prickle. Maybe the Drakon were right to call these places sacred. Maybe some things were meant to stay buried. But curiosity had always been stronger than caution for Jiwoo. The central chamber took her breath away. It was a sphere, easily 200 meters across, with walkways crisscrossing through empty air. And in the center, suspended by cables and half buried in debris, was something that looked impossible. It was a giant, even by Drakon standards. The body was shaped like their kind, with a long neck, powerful limbs, and wings that spread wide even in their broken state. But it wasn't entirely organic. Panels of metal were fused into crystalline scales. Cables ran through its body like veins. One eye was clearly mechanical. The other appeared to be real tissue, preserved somehow despite the centuries. "What is that?" Daehyun breathed. Jiwoo moved closer, her engineer's mind already cataloging what she saw. "It's a construct. Part biological, part machine. The Drakon must have built it during their war." "Not just any construct," Hana said quietly. She was reading something on her tablet, her face pale. "According to the fragments of text I'm translating, this is Velroth, the Drakon war god." Jiwoo had heard the stories. Every spacer had. The Drakon worshipped old war gods, beings of incredible power that had led them to conquer half the known galaxy. But most people thought they were just legends, stories the Drakon told to scare their enemies. "Gods aren't real," Jiwoo said. But even she didn't sound convinced. "This is just a very advanced war machine." She climbed onto one of the walkways to get closer. The construct's head was as large as her entire ship. Carefully, she placed her hand on its surface. The metal was warm. That shouldn't be possible. Jiwoo, we should go, Daehyun said. If the Dracon find us here, the alarm on his suit screamed. Everyone's did. Jiwoo spun around and saw the lights of ships through the temple's broken walls. Not human ships. These were sleek, predatory vessels with scales of dark metal. Dracon warships. Run! Jiwoo shouted. They sprinted back through the corridors, but it was too late. By the time they reached their ship, Dracon soldiers were already there, 6 of them, each standing over 2 meters tall, covered in scales that shimmered like gems. Their weapons were pointed directly at Jiwoo's heart. The leader stepped forward. His scales were deep crimson, marked with scars that told of countless battles. One of his eyes was missing, replaced with a mechanical implant that glowed with cold blue light. When he spoke, his voice was like grinding stone. Humans, he said, you have violated sacred ground. The punishment is death. Jiwoo raised her hand slowly. Her mind raced, looking for any way out. Daehyun and Hana stood frozen behind her. This was it. 6 years of successful salvage runs and it would end here, executed by aliens for stepping into the wrong ruin. But then she noticed something. The Dracon leader wasn't looking at her with simple anger. There was something else in his expression. Pain, grief, loss. You're Tae-young, she said suddenly. I've heard of you. You commanded the Eastern Fleet in the Border Wars. The Dracon's eye widened slightly. You know of me. Everyone knows of you. You're a legend. Jiwoo took a careful step forward. And legends don't execute people without hearing them out first. Tae-yang's clawed hand tightened on his weapon. You desecrated the resting place of Velroth. There is nothing to discuss. Velroth isn't resting, Jiwoo said. It's broken, abandoned, forgotten in a dead temple in the middle of nowhere. She pointed back toward the central chamber. I saw it. That's not a grave. That's a tragedy. You know nothing of our ways, human. Maybe not. But I know machines. I know how to fix things that everyone else has given up on. Jiwoo met his gaze directly. I can rebuild your god. The silence stretched. The other Dracon soldiers looked at each other. Hana made a small sound of disbelief. Daehyun probably thought she had lost her mind. Maybe she had. You cannot rebuild Velroth, Taeyang said finally. No one can. The greatest minds of our people tried and failed. The war god has been silent for 3 centuries. The greatest minds of your people didn't have human engineering, Jiwoo said. We're good at fixing impossible things. Taeyang stared at her for a long moment. Then surprisingly, he lowered his weapon. You have 60 days, he said. If you succeed, you will be honored beyond measure. If you fail, you and your crew will die. Slowly. Jiwoo swallowed hard but nodded. Deal. As the Dracon soldiers led them back toward the central chamber, Daehyun leaned close. Please tell me you have a plan. Not even a little bit, Jiwoo admitted. Great, just great. But Jiwoo was already thinking. She had seen something in that chamber. Something in the way the construct was built. The Dracon had created it with reverence, yes, but also with incredible skill. If she could understand how it worked, maybe she really could bring it back. And if she couldn't? Well, at least she'd die trying to do something impossible. That seemed like a pretty human way to go. The first week was spent just trying to understand what she was looking at. Jiwoo had worked on everything from colony ship engines to ancient Earth satellites pulled from dead orbit. She thought she had seen every type of technology the galaxy had to offer. Velroth proved her wrong in the first 5 minutes. This doesn't make sense, Hana said, her scanner held against a section of the construct's chest. These readings show biological tissue, but it's not decaying. It's preserved in some kind of stasis field. And look at these energy patterns. They're following the same rhythm as a heartbeat. Jiwoo nodded, making notes on her tablet. Around them, the Dracon had set up a workstation. Lights blazed in the darkness, and equipment that she couldn't name hummed with power. Taeyang had assigned her a team of Dracon technicians, though they watched her with barely concealed hostility. It's not just a machine, Jiwoo said quietly. It's something in between. Part living creature, part artificial construct. The word you are looking for is sacred, a cold voice said behind her. Jiwoo turned to see a Dracon in elaborate robes approaching. His scales were deep blue, almost black, and his eyes held the kind of certainty that made her immediately wary. This was someone who believed he knew the truth, and believed everyone else was wrong. This is Minho, Taeyang said, his voice tight. He is the high priest of Velroth's temple. He will observe your work. Observe and judge, Minho corrected. A human has no business touching the divine. This is blasphemy, Taeyang. You know this. What I know is that our empire is falling apart, Taeyang shot back. The noble houses tear at each other like wild beasts. Our colonies refuse to send tribute. Pirates raid our trade routes. Without Velroth to unite us, we are lost. Minho's tail lashed in anger. Velroth fell silent because we failed him. We fought among ourselves. We turned his gift of strength into a tool for civil war. His silence is our punishment. Or maybe he's just broken and needs someone to fix him, Jiwoo said. Both Draken turned to stare at her. She shrugged. Look, I don't know anything about your religion, but I know when something has been damaged and abandoned, and I know that sitting around feeling guilty doesn't fix anything. For a moment, she thought Minho might attack her. His claws extended and his scales seemed to darken, but then he simply turned and walked away, his robes flowing behind him. You have made an enemy, Taeyang said. I'll add him to the list, Jiwoo replied. Now, are we going to stand around, worrying about priests, or are we going to rebuild a god? The work was impossibly complex. Every system in Velroth connected to every other system. The biological components couldn't function without the mechanical ones, and the mechanical ones couldn't operate without the biological tissue generating some kind of energy field. It was like trying to repair a watch where every gear was also a living cell, but Jiwoo had help from an unexpected source. One of the Drakon on her team was different from the others. Suman was young, barely into adulthood by Drakon standards, and his scales were a bright silver that caught the light. While the other, technicians grudgingly followed orders, Suman actually seemed interested in what Jiwoo was doing. You think about problems differently than we do, he said one day, watching her rewire a connection in Velroth's shoulder joint. When we encounter something we do not understand, we search our histories for the answer. You just try things until something works. Human engineering, Jiwoo said with a grin, also known as let's see what happens if I connect these two things. It should not work, but it does. Suman tilted his head. Tell me, do humans have gods? We used to. Some still do, I guess. Me? I believe in what I can touch and fix. But you are fixing our god. Jiwoo paused, her hand still inside Velroth's complex machinery. I'm fixing a very sophisticated construct. Whether it's a god or not, I'll let you folks decide. 3 weeks passed, then 4. Jiwoo barely slept. She could feel the deadline approaching like a physical weight. At night, when she finally collapsed on the cot in her temporary quarters, she dreamed of Velroth. In the dreams, the great construct opened its eyes and looked at her with such sadness that she woke up with tears on her face. It was Dae-hyun who made the breakthrough. He had been studying the power systems, trying to understand how Velroth generated energy. Jiwoo, look at this, he called one morning. The core isn't just a battery, it's storing something else. She hurried over to his station. On the screen, waves of energy pulsed in complex patterns. They looked almost like brain activity. Memories, she breathed. It's storing memories. But whose memories? Dae-hyun asked. Suman provided the answer. He brought them ancient texts, translated into human language. When our ancestors built the war gods, they used genetic material from our greatest heroes. Warriors who had died in glorious battle. The gods were meant to carry their spirits, their knowledge, their courage. Jiwoo felt ice in her stomach. So Velroth isn't just a machine with biological parts, it's actually aware. It can think, it can feel. Of course, Suman said, sounding surprised. How else could it be divine? That changed everything. Jiwoo had been treating Velroth like a complicated repair job. But if the construct was truly conscious, if it carried the memories and personalities of ancient Drakon heroes, then what had happened to it wasn't just mechanical failure. It was trauma. She sat down hard on the equipment crate. We've been doing this all wrong. What do you mean? Hana asked. Velroth didn't break down, it shut down. There's a difference. Jiwoo stood up, pacing now. Think about it. The Dracon Civil War happened 300 years ago. Velroth was built to protect the Dracon people. But then the people started fighting each other. It probably had to watch its own creators tear themselves apart. Maybe even had to fight against other war gods. The texts speak of this, Suman said slowly. 4 war gods were built. By the end of the Civil War, only Velroth remained functional. The others were destroyed in battle. Against each other. So Velroth survived, but at what cost? Jiwoo walked back to the construct's massive head. What do you do when you're built to protect people, but those people use you to kill each other? When everyone you were made from, everyone whose memories you carry dies in a pointless war? You go silent, Taeyang said. He had been standing in the shadows, listening. Now he stepped forward. You retreat into yourself, like a warrior who has seen too much battle. Jiwoo looked at him with new understanding. You know what that's like. I do. Taeyang's good eye looked distant. I commanded 300 ships in the border wars. I lost them all in a single day, an ambush. They died because I led them into a trap. He touched the scar where his eye had been. I earned this wound and I survived. Sometimes I wish I had not. The chamber was quiet except for the hum of equipment. Jiwoo saw the pain in Taeyang's face and recognized it. She had been wrong about the Dracon. They weren't just warrior aliens. They were people who hurt and grieved just like humans did. Velroth didn't just break, Jiwoo said quietly. It gave up, and we can't fix that with tools and wire. We need to give it a reason to wake up. How? Suman asked. Jiwoo didn't have an answer. Not yet. But she was starting to understand what they were really dealing with. Velroth wasn't waiting to be repaired. It was waiting to see if the Dracon had learned anything from their mistakes. That night, as she worked late adjusting the neural pathways in Velroth's core, something happened. A surge of energy pulsed through the construct. Lights flickered to life along its body. For just a moment, one massive eye opened. It looked directly at Jiwoo. Then everything went dark. Alarms shrieked. The construct's body began to convulse. Energy readings spiked off the charts. Suman shouted something in the Draken language. Technicians ran for cover. It's collapsing, Hana screamed. The core is going critical. Jiwoo grabbed the nearest terminal, her fingers flying over controls she barely understood. The energy readings were insane. If Velroth's core imploded, it would create a quantum singularity. A black hole. It would swallow the entire temple and probably the nebula around it. We have to evacuate, Dae-hyun yelled. But Jiwoo couldn't move. She stared at the massive construct as it shook and sparked. In that brief moment when its eye had opened, she had felt something. Recognition. Velroth had seen her, really seen her, a human engineer trying to help. And then the construct had reacted, not with anger, with fear. It's afraid, Jiwoo whispered. Velroth is afraid of waking up. Taeyang grabbed her arm. We must go. Now. The temple shook around them. Cables snapped. Walkways collapsed. The beautiful war god that had slept for 300 years was tearing itself apart rather than face the world again. Jiwoo pulled free from Taeyang's grip. She ran toward Velroth, toward the rising energy that would kill her if she got too close. If you can hear me, she shouted, I know you're scared. I know you don't want to wake up, but you're not alone anymore. I'm here, and I promise things can be different. The energy surged higher. Reality itself seemed to bend around the construct's core, and Jiwoo ran straight into it. Jiwoo didn't remember falling. One moment she was running toward Velroth's core, and the next she was somewhere else entirely. Somewhere that shouldn't exist. She stood in a place made of memory and light. Around her, images flickered like old film. She saw battles that had happened centuries ago. Draken warriors fighting with honor and dying with courage. She saw cities being built, children being born, art being created. But mostly she saw war. Where am I? She whispered. A voice answered, deep and ancient and infinitely tired. You are inside me. Inside Velroth, inside the memories of 1,000 warriors who gave their lives to create me. Jiwoo spun around. Standing before her was a Dracon, but not like any she had seen. This one glowed with inner light. Its scales were made of stars. Its eyes held the weight of centuries. "You're Velroth," she said. "The real you. Not the body, but the consciousness." "I am what remains," the being said. "Fragments of heroes. Echoes of glory, all bound together into something that should not exist. A weapon with a soul." The images around them changed. Now Jiwoo saw the Civil War. She watched as the Dracon turned on each other, families torn apart by political ambition. She saw Velroth fighting, destroying enemy ships, protecting one side while the other side screamed for mercy. She saw the other war gods, beautiful and terrible, falling one by one. "They made us fight each other," Velroth said. "Brother against brother. The memories inside me, they all knew each other. They were friends, family, and we were forced to kill what remained of them." Jiwoo felt tears on her face. "I'm sorry." "I'm so sorry, why?" Velroth's voice held genuine confusion. "You are not Dracon. You had no part in our tragedy." "Because you're in pain," Jiwoo said simply, "and nobody should have to carry that alone." The glowing figure stared at her. Around them, the memories shifted. Now Jiwoo saw the moment when Velroth had gone silent. The war was over. The Dracon were rebuilding. But Velroth had retreated deep inside itself, unable to face a people who had used it so terribly. "For 300 years I have slept," Velroth said. "I could not bear to wake. Could not bear to see what we had become. Better to fade away. Better to become legend and nothing more." "But you didn't fade," Jiwoo said. "You're still here. Still aware. That has to mean something. It means I am too much of a coward to truly die." Jiwoo shook her head. "No, it means you're hoping things can change. Why else would you have opened your eye when you saw me? Why else would you have let me in here?" Velroth turned away. A moment of weakness. I felt something I had not felt in so long. Curiosity. "You are different from the Dracon. You do not demand. You do not command. You asked. You apologized. You treated my broken body with care as if it mattered. It does matter. You matter. I am a weapon." "You're a person," Jiwoo insisted. "Maybe you were built to be a weapon, but you became something more. You have memories, feelings, fears. That makes you a person." The space around them shuddered. Jiwoo felt reality pushing back in. Somewhere outside, in the physical world, her body was probably dying. The energy from the core collapse would be cooking her alive. "You should leave," Velroth said. "I cannot protect you here. My core is failing. I am failing. Again." "Then let me help you," Jiwoo said. "Let me show you something." She reached out, not with her hands but with her mind. In this place of memory and consciousness, she could share her own experiences. She showed Velroth her childhood on Earth. Not grand or glorious, just simple human life. Her father teaching her to fix an old car. Her mother singing while cooking dinner. Friends laughing. Small kindnesses. Then she showed Velroth her work. All the broken things she had repaired over the years. Engines that shouldn't have run again but did. Satellites that should have been space junk but were restored. A colony ship that everyone said was lost, brought home safe. Humans break things, Jiwoo said. We're really good at it. But we're even better at fixing them. And the secret is, we don't just fix the machine. We care about what the machine means. Who it helps. Why it matters. Velroth watched her memories with something like wonder. Your people do this? Repair instead of discard. All the time. It's kind of our thing. Why? Jiwoo smiled. Because everything deserves a second chance. Even war gods who've given up on themselves. The shuddering grew worse. Cracks appeared in the memory space. Through them, Jiwoo could see the real world. Hana and Daehyun were screaming. Suman was trying to reach her physical body with some kind of medical equipment. Taeyang stood frozen, his face stricken with horror. I'm dying out there, aren't I? Jiwoo said. Yes, Velroth said quietly. The energy is too much for a human body. You should not have come to me. Probably not. But I don't regret it. Jiwoo felt strangely calm. At least you won't be alone anymore. When I die, my memories will become part of you, right? That's how this works? Velroth's starlit form seemed to collapse in on itself. No, I will not take another life. I will not consume another soul. That is what destroyed me before. Hey, Jiwoo said gently, I'm offering. And unlike those ancient warriors, I'm choosing this. Use my memories. learn from them, and maybe when you wake up again you can be something new. Not a weapon. A protector. I do not know how. Then we'll figure it out together. Jiwoo reached out and took Velroth's glowing hand. The ancient consciousness flinched at first, then held on tightly. Around them the cracks spread wider. But something else was happening too. Jiwoo's memories weren't just flowing into Velroth. Velroth's memories were flowing into her. She felt the weight of 1,000 lives, 1,000 deaths, centuries of sorrow. It should have crushed her. But instead she felt Velroth supporting her, trying to shoulder most of the burden itself. The war god was protecting her even as she tried to save it. You can't protect me from yourself, Jiwoo said, laughing through tears. But I appreciate you trying. Now stop being gentle and take what you need. Take my strength, my stubbornness, my absolute refusal to accept that anything is impossible. It will change me, Velroth said. Good. Change is good. Trust me. The barriers between them dissolved. Human and Draken consciousness merged in a way that had never happened before. Jiwoo felt herself expanding, becoming part of something vast and ancient. Velroth felt itself changing, colored by human determination and hope. And in that moment of perfect union, something new was born. The memory space exploded outward. Jiwoo felt herself thrown back into her body. She gasped, her lungs burning, every nerve on fire. Strong hands caught her before she hit the ground. Taeyang's face swam into view above her. Breathe, he commanded. Jiwoo, breathe! She sucked in air. Her body screamed in protest, but she was alive. Somehow, impossibly, she was alive. All around them, Velroth was changing. The construct's body, which had been convulsing and breaking apart, was now moving with purpose. Damaged sections were repairing themselves. Biological tissue was growing over mechanical components, or mechanical components were reinforcing tissue. The two parts were finally working together instead of fighting. Lights ran along Velroth's body like rivers of stars. Both eyes opened, glowing with awareness. The massive head turned to look at the gathered Draken and humans. When Velroth spoke, its voice shook the entire temple. But it wasn't speaking in the ancient war tongue. It spoke in modern Draken and in English and in something that was both and neither. I am awake, Velroth said, and I am changed. For 300 years I have slept in grief and shame, but a human engineer has shown me that even gods deserve second chances. Minho stepped forward, his face twisted in fury. This is wrong. You have been corrupted. That human has poisoned you with her alien thoughts. Velroth's gaze fell on the priest. No, Minho, she has healed me with compassion, something you and I both forgot existed. This is heresy. Minho turned to the other dragon. This creature is no longer our god. It has been defiled. But Suman was laughing, tears streaming down his silver scales. Don't you see? Velroth hasn't been corrupted. It's been freed. For the first time, our god is truly alive. Velroth lifted one massive claw and gently touched Jiwoo's head. The contact sent warmth through her entire body. You gave me your strength, small human. In return, I give you my bond. You are my keeper now, my anchor to this world. Together we will see if the Drakon have learned anything from their past mistakes. And if they haven't, Jiwoo asked, her voice weak but steady, then we will teach them. Taeyang helped Jiwoo to her feet. She swayed, still weak from the ordeal, but she was grinning. So, she said. Did I mention that I've never actually rebuilt a god before? Because I definitely made up most of that as I went along. Despite everything, Taeyang laughed. It was a rough, rusty sound, as if he hadn't laughed in years. I believe you, human. I believe you. Outside the temple, alarms began to sound. Ships were approaching. A lot of ships. That would be the rest of the noble houses, Taeyang said grimly. Word has spread that Velroth is awakening. Some will come to pledge loyalty. Others will come to destroy what they fear. Velroth stood, its massive body rising to its full height. Dust and debris fell away. The war god spread its wings and they blazed with light. Let them come, Velroth said. Let them see what their weapon has become. Let them see what happens when humans and Drakon build something together. Jiwoo looked up at the massive being she had helped restore. Part of her consciousness was still connected to Velroth. She could feel its determination, its hope, and yes, its fear, but they would face it together. Well, she said to Daehyun and Hana, who stood staring with open mouths. This job got a lot more complicated. You rebuilt a god, Hana said faintly. With spare parts and human stubbornness. Pretty much, yeah. The war god that had feared to wake was now fully conscious. and the galaxy was about to learn that some weapons, when given a choice, choose to protect instead of destroy. The fleet arrived 3 hours later. Jiwoo watched them emerge from hyperspace on the temple's rebuilt scanners. Dozens of ships ranging from small fighters to massive dreadnoughts. They formed a blockade around the temple, weapons powered and ready. "That's the Shadowclaw clan," Taeyang said, his voice tight. "Led by Hyun. He's been trying to seize control of the Empire since the noble houses started fighting. If Velroth truly awakens under my command, his ambitions are finished. So he's here to stop us," Jiwoo said. "He's here to kill us all." Through their bond, Jiwoo felt Velroth's awareness spread across space. The war god was monitoring every ship, every weapon, every power signature. It was calculating trajectories and tactics faster than any computer. But there was something else in Velroth's consciousness. Sadness. "More war," Velroth said, its voice resonating through the temple. "After 300 years, it is still war." "They don't know you've changed," Jiwoo said. "Show them." A communication channel opened. On the screen appeared a Drakon even larger than Taeyang, with scales like polished obsidian. His eyes were cold and calculating. "This was Hyun." "Taeyang," Hyun said with false courtesy. "I see the rumors are true. You've awakened something in the old temple. But that pathetic construct cannot be Velroth. Our war god would never allow itself to be tainted by human presence." "Velroth speaks for itself," Taeyang replied. The screen changed to show Velroth's massive form. The war god looked directly at Hyun through the camera, and Jiwoo felt a surge of power through their bond. When Velroth spoke, every ship in the fleet heard it. "I am Velroth. I am the war god of the Draken people, and I have seen what you have become in my absence. You tear at each other like beasts. You dishonor the memories of those who built me. This ends now." Hyun laughed, a harsh sound. "You think you can command us? You are a relic. A broken toy from a dead age. The Draken have evolved beyond needing gods. Then why did you bring an army to destroy me?" The question hung in the air. Hyun's expression hardened. "Because I cannot allow the old order to return. The noble houses, the priests, the traditional ways, they have made us weak. I will build a new empire from the ashes of the old, by destroying the last war god," Velroth said. "How very courageous of you." "Fire," Hyun commanded. The fleet opened up with everything they had. Energy beams, missiles, kinetic rounds, all focused on the temple. Taeyang's defenders scrambled to raise shields, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. Velroth moved. The war god launched from the temple faster than something that size should be able to move. Jiwoo felt the acceleration through their bond and gasped. Velroth flew into the storm of fire, and its wings blazed with power. Energy fields deflected incoming shots. The construct's body twisted and spun, avoiding the worst of the barrage. But Velroth wasn't just dodging. It was hurting. Every movement, every position, it was pushing the enemy ships into specific formations. "What is it doing?" Hana asked, staring at the tactical display. Jiwoo saw it then. "It's not fighting. It's protecting. Look at the firing solutions. Every ship that keeps shooting is going to hit another ship in the fleet." Taeyang's eye widened. "It's using their aggression against them." Within minutes, Hyun's fleet was in chaos. Ships had to cease fire or risk destroying their allies. Fighters crashed into each other, trying to track Velroth's movements. The war god was dancing through them like wind through grass, and it hadn't fired a single shot. Through their bond, Jiwoo felt Velroth's determination. The war god had spent 300 years regretting the death it had caused. It would not add to that tally if there was any other choice. But then everything changed. A new ship emerged from hyperspace, and Jiwoo felt Velroth's consciousness recoil in horror. The ship was different. Organic and twisted, it radiated pain and rage. "By all the stars," Taeyang whispered. "That's Malthor. Another war god." "I thought they were all destroyed," Jiwoo said. "We thought so too." The twisted construct screamed across all frequencies, a sound of pure anguish. Unlike Velroth, which had chosen to sleep, Malthor had been broken and corrupted. Hyun had found its remains and rebuilt it, but without consciousness or mercy. It was just a weapon now, a beast driven only by rage. "Destroy it," Hyun commanded. "Destroy them both." Malthor charged at Velroth, its body crackling with unstable energy. The two war gods collided in a flash of light that lit up the entire nebula. Jiwoo screamed as pain flooded through her bond with Velroth. The impact had damaged them both. "Jiwoo." Daehyun caught her as she collapsed. "What's wrong?" I feel it, she gasped. Everything Velroth feels. That thing, Malthor, it's in so much pain. Hyun didn't restore it. He tortured it into service. Velroth and Malthor tumbled through space, clawing and tearing at each other. But Velroth was holding back, trying to find the consciousness buried beneath Malthor's rage. Through their bond, Jiwoo felt Velroth's desperate hope that its brother could still be saved. Malthor, Velroth called. I know you are still in there. Fight the corruption. Remember who you were? The twisted war god responded by blasting Velroth with a beam of pure energy. Velroth's shields barely held. Damage reports flooded through Jiwoo's awareness. Velroth was being hurt badly. It can't save Malthor, Suman said, watching the battle with horror. It has to destroy it. No, Jiwoo said. She struggled to her feet. There's another way. What way? Taeyang demanded. Jiwoo looked at the tactical display, her engineer's mind racing. Velroth can absorb Malthor. Integrated systems. But it's dangerous. The corruption could spread to Velroth too. Then it is suicide, Minho said. He had been silent until now, watching everything with his cold judgment. You would kill the god you just awakened? I would give it a choice, Jiwoo shot back. Which is more than you people ever did. She closed her eyes and reached out through the bond. Velroth, can you hear me? Yes, Keeper. Even in the midst of battle, Velroth's voice in her mind was steady. I have an idea, but it's risky. You'd have to take Malthor into yourself. Try to heal it from the inside. The corruption could destroy us both. Yeah. But if it works, you'll have your brother back, and you'll be strong enough to stop this war without killing anyone. There was a pause. Malthor struck again, tearing away part of Velroth's wing. The pain made Jiwoo's vision go white. I trust you, small human, Velroth said finally. If you believe this can work, then I will try. Velroth stopped fighting. Instead of dodging Malthor's next attack, it opened its arms wide. The corrupted war god crashed into Velroth, claws sinking deep. But instead of being torn apart, Velroth wrapped its own limbs around Malthor. Brother, Velroth said, I have failed you once. I will not do so again. Come home. Energy flared between them. Velroth's body began to absorb Malthor, pulling the corrupted construct into itself. On the screens, it looked like two giant dragons merging into one. Jiwoo felt the moment when Malthor's consciousness touched hers through the bond. It was like drowning in acid. Pain, rage, hate, all directed at everything. Malthor didn't just want to destroy. It needed to. The corruption had eaten away everything else. Stay with me, Jiwoo said, not sure if she was talking to Velroth or Malthor or herself. I've got you. Both of you. She poured everything she had into the bond. Every happy memory, every moment of peace, every small kindness she had ever witnessed. She showed Malthor that there was more to existence than pain. That healing was possible. That even broken things could be made whole again. Somewhere in that storm of consciousness, she felt Velroth doing the same. The war god was sharing its own recent awakening, the wonder of being freed from sorrow, the hope that Jiwoo had given it. Slowly, impossibly, Malthor began to change. The rage didn't disappear, but it became something else, grief, loss, and finally acceptance. I am sorry. Malthor's voice joined theirs in the bond. I could not resist. I could not fight what they made me. It's okay, Jiwoo said. You're safe now. The merge completed. Where two war gods had fought, now only one remained. But this Velroth was different, larger, more powerful. Its wings spread wide enough to cast shadows on the temple. Its scales shimmered with colors that hurt to look at. And it was whole. Jan's voice cut through the moment. No, this is impossible. You cannot be stronger. You are broken relics. The merged Velroth turned to face the fleet. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of two ancient war gods and one stubborn human engineer. We are not broken, Velroth said. We are healed, and we are done with your war. Velroth spread its wings and released a pulse of energy. Not destructive, but disabling. Every weapon system in Hyun's fleet shut down simultaneously. Engines cut out. Shields dropped. The ships drifted helplessly in space. I could destroy you all, Velroth said. But I choose not to. That is the difference between a weapon and a guardian. A weapon has no choice, I do. And I choose mercy. On the screens, Jiwoo saw Draken warriors on various ships. They were staring at Velroth with awe. Some were actually crying. They had expected their god to return as an engine of destruction. Instead, it had shown them something they had forgotten. Restraint. Power used not to dominate, but to protect. One by one, ships began to break away from Hyon's formation. Captains declared their loyalty not to Hyon, but to Velroth, to the new way that a human and a war god had created together. Hyon's face on the screen was twisted with rage. "You are weak. All of you! This is not strength. This is evolution," Taeyang interrupted. "Something you never understood." As Hyon's remaining loyal ships retreated, Velroth returned to the temple. The war god landed gently, careful not to damage anything. Through their bond, Jiwoo felt Velroth's exhaustion. The battle and merger had taken everything. "Rest," she said. "You've earned it. So have you, Keeper." Jiwoo collapsed into Taeyang's arms, unconscious before she hit the ground. But she was smiling. They had won. Not through violence, but through something the Drakon had forgotten how to do. They had shown compassion to their enemies. And in doing so, they had won the hearts of their people. Jiwoo woke up in a bed that was far too comfortable to be her ship's bunk. The ceiling above her was carved from crystal, glowing with soft light. She tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Every muscle in her body screamed in protest. "Easy," a familiar voice said. Taeyang sat beside the bed and he looked exhausted. "You have been unconscious for 3 weeks." 3 weeks? Jiwoo croaked. "What happened? Is Velroth safe, resting? The merge with Malthor took much from both of you." Taeyang handed her a glass of water. "The bond you share nearly killed you. The priests say your mind was too fragile for such power." Jiwoo drank gratefully. "The priests can say whatever they want. I'm alive, aren't I?" "Barely." But Taeyang was smiling. "You are the most stubborn creature I have ever met, human. You can call me Jiwoo, you know. Jiwoo." He said her name carefully, as if testing the sound. "Very well. And you may call me by my name, not my title. I've been doing that since we met." "Yes, you have." He stood, offering his hand. "Can you walk?" "The Grand Council has called a meeting. They wish to decide what to do with you." Jiwoo let him help her up. "I'm guessing thank you for saving our god isn't the main item on the agenda." "You would guess correctly." The council chamber was enormous, built to accommodate Drakon scale. Representatives from dozens of noble houses filled the space, their scales displaying every color imaginable. At the center, raised on a platform, sat the eldest among them. These were the leaders who had guided the Drakon Empire for centuries, or tried to anyway. From the shouting, it was clear they hadn't been doing a great job lately. "The human must be exiled," one noble roared. "She has corrupted Velroth with her alien thoughts." "Corrupted?" Another shot back. "She restored what we abandoned. Where were you when our god needed help? The bond is unnatural. A human cannot be keeper to a Drakon war god."
"Why not?"
"The old ways led us to civil war. Perhaps new ways are needed." Taeyang led Jiwoo through the chaos to stand before the council. Beside her stood Hana and Daehyun, looking terrified. Suman was there too, along with Minho, who glared at her with undisguised hatred. The eldest council member raised a hand for silence. Her scales were pale blue, almost white with age. Her name was Bora, and she had ruled her house for over 200 years. "We have heard arguments for days," Bora said, her voice carrying despite her age. "Now we will hear from those directly involved. Jiwoo of Earth, you have done something unprecedented. You have bonded with our most sacred being. Some say you saved Velroth. Others say you have doomed us all. What say you?" Jiwoo stepped forward. Public speaking had never been her strength. She was an engineer, more comfortable with tools than words. But Velroth's presence in her mind gave her courage. "I didn't set out to bond with a war god," she began. "I was just trying to fix something broken. That's what I do. That's what humans do. We see something that everyone else has given up on and we try anyway." "You speak as if your people are superior," Minho said coldly. "No. I'm saying we're different. The Drakon, you're warriors. You're strong and honorable and brave. But you forgot how to be compassionate. You forgot that protecting is better than conquering. We need no lessons from humans on strength." Someone shouted. "You're right," Jiwoo agreed. "You don't. But maybe you need lessons on when not to use that strength. Velroth taught me that. A god who chose to shut down rather than keep killing. That's not weakness. That's wisdom." Bora leaned forward. "And what would you have us do? Abandon our warrior culture entirely? No, keep your strength. Keep your honor. Just point it in a different direction." Instead of conquering, protect. Instead of dominating, defend. You have the power to be the galaxy's greatest guardians. Why waste it on being conquerors? The chamber erupted in argument again. Some agreed, others were outraged. Jiwoo looked at Taeyang, who nodded encouragingly. Then a new voice cut through the noise. Not spoken, but resonating through the walls, the floor, through everyone's bones. Enough. The entire council fell silent. Through the crystal walls, Jiwoo could see Velroth approaching. The war god had taken a smaller form, only about 10 meters tall, but its presence was overwhelming. It entered the chamber through a specially designed archway. You debate my keeper's fate, Velroth said. Very well. But know this, she offered me something none of you could. Not commands. Not worship. Not demands for war and glory. She offered me a choice. The freedom to be more than what I was built to be. Minho stood trembling with emotion. You were built to lead us. To make us strong. That human has made you weak. No, priest. She has made me free. Velroth's gaze fell on Minho. For 300 years I was silent because I could not bear what you made me do. I was a slave to your ambitions, your wars, your pride. Jiwoo broke those chains. Then you are no longer our god, Minho declared. We will build another. One that remembers its purpose. Try, Velroth said simply. And when that weapon gains consciousness, when it realizes what you have made it, it will go silent just as I did. You cannot force divinity. You cannot command loyalty. These must be given freely, Bora stood slowly. Then what do you propose, Velroth? What is your will? My will is this, the Draken will change or I will leave. No more wars of conquest, no more empire building. You will become guardians of this sector, protecting those who cannot protect themselves. And Jiwoo will remain as my keeper, a bridge between human and Dracon. And if we refuse, another council member asked, then I will seek out the other war gods that sleep among the stars. I will awaken them as Jiwoo awakened me, and we will build something new, somewhere else. The choice is yours. The silence was absolute. Jiwoo held her breath. Everything hung in this moment. 300 years of Dracon culture, challenged by a rebuilt god and a human engineer. Finally, Bora spoke. I am old. I remember the Civil War. I remember what we lost. If there is even a small chance that we can become something better. She looked at the other council members. I vote to accept Velroth's terms. One by one, other nobles stood and declared their support. Not all of them. A third of the council remained seated, refusing. But it was enough. The majority had spoken. So be it, Bora declared. Jiwoo of Earth is recognized as keeper of Velroth. The Draken Empire will begin the slow process of reformation. Those who cannot accept this are free to establish their own colonies, but they will have no claim to the old empire. Minho stood and left without a word, taking several other traditionalists with him. Jiwoo felt a pang of sadness. Not everyone could change, even when given the chance, but most stayed. And that was enough. Later, Jiwoo stood on a balcony overlooking the Dracon homeworld. She had been given quarters in the capital, an honor usually reserved for noble houses. Taeyang had been appointed First Shield, a new position created to command forces in Velroth's name. He stood beside her now, watching the sunset. You are staying then? He asked, for a while. Velroth needs me, and honestly I'm curious to see how this all turns out. As am I. Taeyang was quiet for a moment. I never thanked you for showing me that there are other ways to be strong. You thanked me by not executing me on day one. I'd say we're even. He laughed, that rusty sound that was becoming more common. Perhaps, though I wonder what other impossible things you will accomplish. Funny you should mention that. Jiwoo pulled up a star chart on her tablet. Velroth has been sharing information with me. There are at least 6 other war god ruins scattered across the galaxy, all of them silent, abandoned, broken. You wish to repair them. Yeah, build a whole team of reformed war gods. Turn weapons into guardians. It's probably impossible. Probably, Taeyang agreed, but you are very good at impossible things. Want to come along? We could use someone who knows how to lead warriors and isn't afraid to try new things. Taeyang looked at her, and for the first time since they met, he smiled. Really smiled. I would be honored, Jiwoo. 6 months later, a small fleet left Dracon space. It consisted of 3 ships, Jiwoo's modified Scrap Hawk, a Dracon science vessel, and a warship commanded by Taeyang. Velroth traveled with them. Its consciousness split between its physical form and the ship systems. Hana had stayed behind, working with Dracon engineers to develop new hybrid technologies. Daehyun had returned to human space as an ambassador, already negotiating the first formal treaties between humans and Dracon. But Jiwoo, Taeyang, Sumin, and a small crew of volunteers were heading into unknown space. Their mission was simple and impossible: find broken gods and give them second chances. Their first destination appeared on the scanners, a debris field surrounding a dead star. Somewhere in that graveyard of metal and memory, another war god waited. Jiwoo ran her hand along the ship's wall, feeling Velroth's presence through their bond. "Ready?" she asked. "Ready, Keeper, though I confess I'm nervous. What if the others do not wish to be awakened? Then we give them the same thing you were given, a choice. And if they choose to keep sleeping, we respect that. And if they wake corrupted like Malthor, then we heal them, together. That's kind of our thing now." The fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying a human engineer, a reformed war god, and a Dracon warrior who had learned that true strength meant knowing when not to fight. Behind them, the Dracon Empire struggled with its transformation. Some houses clung to the old ways. Others embraced the new. It would take generations to fully change. But change had begun, and across the galaxy, in the dark places between stars, ancient war gods stirred in their sleep. Some had been waiting for death, others for vengeance, but now they were waiting for something else entirely. They were waiting for a human woman who fixed broken things, who saw potential where others saw only scrap metal, who believed that even gods deserved second chances. Jiwoo stood on the bridge of her ship, surrounded by friends who had once been strangers, bound to a god who had once been silent, heading toward the unknown with nothing but hope and determination. "You know," she said to no one in particular, "when I left Earth to become a salvage engineer, I thought the biggest thing I'd ever fix was maybe a colony ship." Taeyang chuckled. "And instead you rebuilt a god. Yeah, funny how life works out." Velroth's presence filled the ship, warm and content. "You do more than rebuild, Jiwoo. You show us what we can become. That is a greater gift than any repair. Stop it, you'll make me blush. I am serious. You have changed me. Change the Draken. Perhaps you will change the galaxy." "One broken god at a time," Jiwoo said. "That's all we can manage." The ship dropped out of hyperspace. Before them, spinning slowly in the void, was another massive construct. Another war god. This one looked like it had been torn apart in battle, its pieces held together by gravity and ancient determination. "Wow," Sumin breathed. "It's beautiful." "It's a mess," Jiwoo said, already cataloging the damage in her mind. "But yeah, it's beautiful too." She pulled up her tools and felt Velroth's presence strengthen in her mind. They had done this once. They could do it again, and again, and again, for every broken thing in the galaxy that everyone else had given up on, because that's what humans did best. They saw the impossible, shrugged, and got to work anyway. Jiwoo smiled and headed toward the airlock. Time to fix another god.